Stop apologizing. Stop talking about what you're not giving people, what's not here, and what you didn't do. I want to be clear. I'm not suggesting stop apologizing for everything always. If you're in a situation where last night you went to your friend's house, you drank all their alcohol, threw up on their bed, and commented on their mother's mustache, please, by all means, apologize. Definitely apologize for that. This is not an episode about dealing with wrongdoing. That is not what we're talking about on this episode. This is about the classic example when you invite someone over to your house, and as soon as they walk in the door, you realize everything that is wrong with this house. And if you're like me, you're like, is it even legal that we live this way? Because you get accustomed to it. You are used to living in this state of filth and chaos, and then you're kind of seeing it through other people's eyes. And you're like, do they even feel safe here? And so your temptation is to apologize. Like, I am so sorry. This is an actual example from my life from a few years ago. I am so sorry that we didn't empty that potty chair that is right there in the middle of the living room. Look at that, boy. Last time I let those kids eat burritos, I will tell you that. I swear I didn't see it. I know, you're like, how do you not notice that there is an unemptied, open potty chair in the middle of your living room? That's the level of chaos that I was living in when my kids were little, that I didn't. And I had some guests of honor come over to my house. They've never been back since. Is that coincidence? We don't know. There's also an example. I can't decide if I'll tell you who it is, but someone he kind of has a platform. Right? He's out there. He brought his family over. And as soon as they walked in, I was like, oh, wait a minute. These are people who have their lives together. They are classy and they are organized. And I doubt they even feel safe in this place. And then sure enough, every time we hang out since then, he and his wife are always like, what? We could do it at our place. You know, we'd be happy to host you guys. And sure enough, I went to their place and it was immaculate. Immaculate. And then I compared it to my house and it was like, oof. I'm just glad he still talks about it. His name is Paul J. Kim. He's a great public speaker. He lives here in the Austin area. You guys can look him up on Instagram. But look up his life. Go watch his Instagram stories or whatever. And he and his drop dead gorgeous wife, they have all these little kids and their lives are perfect. And I invited them over to my house one time. And as soon as they walked in, I was like, this was a terrible mistake. Like, I can't believe I'm letting him know we live like this. But my point is that it's tempting to just rattle off apologies. I'm so sorry we didn't empty the potty chair. I'm so sorry that the dishes are piled up. I'm so sorry that I'm serving frozen lasagna. I'm so sorry, But you got to stop doing that. That's not good leadership. We're always talking about leadership on this podcast because when you live a village-less life, you have to be a leader, whether you want to or not, whether you perceive yourself as a leader or not. Guess what? You're CEO of your own life. So it's just bad leadership to constantly walk around and tell people what they're not getting from you. Imagine if you worked at a company, and of course, like your livelihood depends on the CEO of your company. Your ability to pay your mortgage and feed your family and buy groceries is dependent on how well this guy's running this company. And imagine if he walked around like, I'm so sorry, guys, I didn't get the reports out. And oh, look at this. The walls needed to be painted. I'm so sorry I haven't gotten that done. And I am so sorry I'm wearing this. This is kind of a mess. I'm so sorry my pants aren't ironed. You would just be like, I think I need to find another job because this is getting really troubling. But that's how you make your kids feel. That's how you make your neighbors feel. That's how you make your friends feel when you walk around constantly telling them what you didn't do and what they're not getting from you. And you need to flip it and focus on what you are providing. Like when Paul J. Kim and his beautiful family came to my house, it was like, look, there's shelter. So, yeah, there's a crunching sound when you guys walk through my living room, but We will vacuum at some point, you know, and let's focus on what we do have here. We have like 4 different smells, and only 3 of them are bad. So I think that we should all be happy with this. They've literally never come back. I'm not saying that Paul J. Kim is like terrified to come back to my house. We can't know what's going on in his mind. It's pure speculation, but I love him. He and his family are so gracious to me. So anyway, that's what this episode is about. Not apologizing, but again, not in the, not in the sense of like, if you did something wrong, go ahead and apologize, but don't apologize for ways that you come up short. How about that? That is the topic of today's episode, and I am coming your way with my stand-up comedy tour if you live in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, Orlando, Florida, Atlanta, or Houston, or Austin. Now, last week I was announcing that we're doing my Austin showcase show with me and a bunch of other comedians. We're doing that now quarterly because I'm too busy to do it once a month. And these always sell out now. Mm-hmm. Now, I told you last week that it's December 9th. I hope that you guys know at this point, you cannot rely on any dates I ever tell you. If I say that I am coming to your city on January 11th, the one thing you know for sure is that I will not be there January 11th. I could be there any other day on the calendar. I do usually get the month right. So your takeaway should be, if I'm like, let's say you live in Omaha, and I'm like, hey, I'm coming to Omaha January 11th. Your takeaway should be, Jen will be here sometime in January, but definitely not the 11th, because she cannot get dates right to save her life. I'm not, my Austin show is not December 9th. It is December 6th. And I don't even know if that's right. I'm just saying words right. At this point. Well, I'm Catholic, and a lot of times we do things by feast days when we want to be really extra and pretentious. If we, like one time I wrote a foreword to a book, and it's common to date your forewords because it's so pretentious. It's like, because this is such a magnificent thing that I'm penning, people will want to know what date this masterpiece was created on. But Catholics, because we're so extra all the time, we'll put the feast day, written on the feast of St. Maximus. And every day of the calendar year, there's like the major saint, like St. John Paul II, like someone you've heard of. But then there are obscure saints. And I did that one. I chose just the most obscure saint. It was like Feast of St. Francis of Rome 2014, like just to make sure everyone knew that I was super extra. So what's interesting is I don't tend to mess up saints' feast days for whatever reason. That obviously, guys, I would never tell you that I'm performing on the feast of St. Catherine of Siena when obviously it's like the feast of Mother Teresa. So my non-Catholic listeners are like, moving on. Well, what's Tim Ferriss up to today? But for whatever reason, I tend to get that right. So I think I will tell you, Catholic and non-Catholic listeners alike, in the future, just what saint's feast day I will be performing on. My Austin show is the Feast of St. Nicholas. So I think we can all get that right. St. Nicholas, of course, is a saint that we honor, not for bringing presents to children, which he also did, but he punched a heretic in the face.
Oh, nice.
And that's the energy that I like to bring to life. So yeah, it was Arius was like mouthing off, and we are already on a very deep tangent in this podcast. So let me pull myself back together. If you would like to know where, when, and where, and all that, what's going on with my tour, what website, Caitlin, would they possibly go to for that?
I think it might be this one.
Jen Fulwiler is hitting the road on the maternal instinct tour, so watch where she goes. Just go to jfcomedytour.com, jfcomedytour.com.
Welcome to the Jen Fulwiler Show, coming to you from Austin, Texas. I am your host, Jen Fulwiler. I'm a stand-up comic, best-selling author, and mom of 6. This podcast is where you learn the art of the village hustle. That's being a hot girl boss or hot boy boss who knows that love and family and community are the foundation of all true success. Caitlin White is our lovely producer, and we publish new episodes every single Wednesday morning. We have not missed a Wednesday in almost 2 years. We are totally totally reliable on this podcast. If there is ever not a podcast on a Wednesday morning, call 911. Something terrible has happened. And you can get premium content on Patreon. We do extra stuff. It's excellent. And that website is patreon.com/thisisjen. I like to share some of the Apple Podcast reviews we get, mainly because it tells you who else is listening. That village feel, that community feel. I like for you guys to know a little bit about who else is listening. And obviously, I know that when you think about this podcast and who listens to it, you're probably like, it's mostly 42-year-old men that operate concrete plants, and then a couple of other people as well, but that's sort of the primary demographic. And sure enough, you'd be right if you were thinking that. Bob, West Coast Driver on Apple Podcasts says, whether you are a stay-at-home mom, working mom, or a 42-year-old man that operates a concrete plant, this is a must listen. Jen is hilarious and has oodles of wisdom from her personal trials and tribulations. So I hope that he is operating his concrete plant while listening to this podcast. It brings me endless joy to imagine my voice being around someone with real jobs. I feel like it makes me seem very legit in comparison. I have a quote unquote job? That's debatable, but my voice is near people who do real work that actually adds value to the world. So that's very exciting. KCT3251 says, my cousin introduced me to this podcast and I love it. She lives on the other side of the country, but listening to Jen brings us together. Every Wednesday, we text each other to wish each other a happy Jen's Day. It gives me something to look forward to every week. If you need a good laugh, give this podcast a listen. That brings tears to my eyes. Seriously, that idea of people connecting across distances, as you know, that's a huge thing on this podcast and just in my life, thinking about how we can connect with each other and how difficult it is that so many of us are separated by thousands of miles from our community and our village. So that makes my life. That is up there with concrete plant in terms of how much that blesses me to hear that. And then Bernadette says, last one, she says, Jen, and she's speaking to me directly because she knows that leaving an Apple Podcast review is better than having my personal phone number if you would like to get in touch with me. She says, Jen, I was first introduced to you a couple of years ago when my older sister gave me your book, Blue Flame, for my 22nd birthday. You have been such an inspiration ever since then. Here's what I like. This is interesting. She says, this past summer, I took some very big steps in getting a job that was a bit of a leadership position. I'm very introverted, and I found that the first few weeks of the job were really hard. I swear it was like you knew, because one of your episodes from those weeks really resonated with me and my situation and helped me push through my own fears. Thank you so much. That's incredible. And she was at my Pittsburgh show. Caitlin, you were there. Mm-hmm. That was a show.
That was an awesome
one. Pittsburgh. That was a really good show. So thank you, Bernadette. Thank you to everyone who leaves Apple Podcast reviews. I read each one personally. And again, I like to share them with you so that you know who else is listening to this podcast. Now, today is the big reveal for me cutting bangs. Those of you who watch this on YouTube, both of you are able to see my new bangs. I'd had the same haircut for 15 years. Cutting bangs was a huge step. You can see how it looks at jfonyoutube.com. I set up that URL myself. It just redirects you to my YouTube page, jfonyoutube.com. The link is also in the show notes. And so this is my new bangs look. Right now, for those of you on audio, which is all of you, I have them swooped to the side, but I can also put them straight forward. Okay, that's looking a little wildebeest. We won't do that right now, but in general, they look fine. People asked if I was nervous about it. I think I mentioned this in the last episode. I was not, because what do we do on this podcast? What's part of our village hustle ethic here? We separate decisions from outcomes. I said it last episode and I'm repeating it here. I had decided that the data indicated that it was worth trying this new hairstyle. I did my due diligence. I even got an AI app, Photo Leap. It's incredible what you can do. you tell it the area where you want a change, and then it pops up a text box where you just describe what you want to see. So I just indicated the area of my forehead and I wrote add bangs, and then it shows me all these different kind of bangs. Incredible. So I did my due diligence. I spent so many hours of my life that I can never get back playing around with PhotoLeap and the AI doing the bangs. So I had done my research, and at that point, I decided that the data indicated that bangs were worth a shot. And then once I made that decision, I decided I would live with it. There was a real risk that this would just look frumpy and I would hate it. And I'm filming my stand-up comedy special in Houston on November 15th. There are very few tickets left. You should definitely get your tickets. Come to Houston. So I'm filming my next special on November 15th, which is coming right up as of this recording. And so, yeah, there was a risk that I would hate my appearance on this massive special that is a really big deal. So, but I decided I would live with it because here in our village hustle mentality, we separate decisions from outcomes. So even if the outcome had been bad, I would not have said that was a bad decision. I would have said that was a good decision with a bad outcome. So I was not nervous at all. Aoife Marie, who cut my bangs, she's Irish. She thought it was funny that I wasn't nervous at all. And then I started lecturing her about decisions versus outcomes. And then she was like, whose bangs am I cutting here? Nobody else talks about their hair this way. But it's also an example of when you're meant to do something. Yes, I'm implying that divine forces care about my bangs, and they care about your bangs too. Listen, God cares about the little things in life. When it's meant to happen, the right doors will open. I had booked an appointment at this one salon that I'd never been to, but it got great reviews. And I got multiple lecturing emails from them about, like they said that if you cancel with a full 48 hours notice, you still owe them 100% of the charge. And I mean, I wasn't planning on canceling, but it was like, well, and then they sent this long email about how you have to show up with clean, dry hair to your haircut. Like,
I mean, don't
are
they
you
wash
guys
it
going to
for
wash
you?
my,
Like...
yeah, like what am I paying for? So it just didn't feel right. So, and not that anyone cares about my hair. I hope you guys are tracking with the fact that I'm trying to walk you through how I make decisions in life in case it's helpful. So I just thought, I'm just getting, I don't know a better word other than vibes. I'm getting weird vibes from these people. Like, that's not how the world works, that I pay you for you to boss me around and then take my money if it's like 48 hours. I was like, So with plenty of notice, I canceled that appointment. And then I just wasn't sure what to do. It's a long story. I just couldn't figure out the right way to get this done. And then this gal who used to do my hair years ago, but she hadn't done my hair since because I thought she moved out of Austin. She messaged me on Instagram and said, hey, I'll do your hair for you. I'll cut your bangs. And I didn't even know she was still in our town. And so that was very exciting. And then she ended up pointing out that she's Irish, like literally like born in Ireland. Ooh. And when she was working with my hair, she said, you have 100% Irish hair. She said, this is Irish hair. So she knew exactly what to do with it. She did it at my house. She made a house call to come cut bangs. It was super easy. And that's just an example of how if you've made a decision to do something and you're just, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a hippie, but the vibes are just off. Let's say, whether it's a doctor, maybe you have a serious medical issue and you're at this doctor's practice and it's just, you just feel weird. You are not getting a good impression of these people. The little small interactions you have with them are weird and off-putting and don't make you feel at ease. Do something different. Mix it up. Speaking of medical stuff, I wish I had listened to that advice years ago when I was dealing with pregnancy and my clotting disorder. I wish I had taken that advice. If you've committed to something, but it's just feeling weird, it's just not gelling, get yourself out of it and just wait for a better situation to present itself, or better yet, don't just sit around and wait, but take massive action. I put on Instagram that I was thinking about cutting bangs, and that's how I discovered Aoife. If I had just sat around and thought about it, I would have never connected with her and I wouldn't have the incredible bangs that I have today. I'm so happy with them. I'm so happy. So that is my advice to you. First, separate decisions from outcomes. But even once you've made the decision, if you're just getting a weird impression of how this is going, change your path. Try to work with someone different. So here is the intro topic before we get to the stop apologizing topic is how I handled a heckler at my shows this past weekend. I had multiple shows in Salt Lake City. It was a lot of fun. Wise Guys is a great comedy club chain, super high quality. It's wonderfully run. You can't go wrong with shows at Wise Guys. It was an honor to be there. And so these were great shows. It was a lot of fun. 90% Mormon audience, which was so much fun to connect with those guys. Just different crowd than I'm used to. I'm used to either having, there's a lot of people who are either Catholic or they're familiar with Catholicism in the crowd, or it's the Austin crowd that is edgelords. Everyone's 22 and high, and they all have face tattoos. And I love those guys too, but those are the two crowds that I'm used to performing for. Mormons, I was like, what do you do with these guys? So we have video here for you and audio. Put yourself in my position. I'm on stage. I have all these people staring at me. And I am delivering my performance that I am there to deliver. And I'm on a roll. I'm telling the story. And all right, Caitlin, we have a few clips here, but Caitlin, play the first clip of what happened when I was trying to do my performance. I will say though, my husband is a very frugal man. So much so that right, exactly. That's what frugal means. Yes. He's a very frugal man. Correct. We got it. This is a group conversation. She's probably a plant that my husband sent here. Like, that's right. Good for him. He has convinced our children. So, all right. So I was thinking at that point, I thought, okay, it was kind of strange that she wasn't being rude. She was just being loud and trying to contribute to the conversation. So I thought, okay, she's had her little outburst. I saw a server go up and talk to her, and I thought, we're fine. It's fine. Alas! And he's like, is that Joanna Gaines? That's exactly how she reacted. So That was kind of sweet. I made a joke about someone wanting to taser me, and she was screaming that nobody would taser me, which I appreciated, but it just kind of wasn't. And she was in the back of the room. She was back by you, Caitlin. Yeah. Caitlin was in the back filming, and yeah, she was way back there. And the worst part of it was it wasn't stressing me out, but it was stressing the room out. I could see people kind of getting uptight and fidgeting in their chairs. And it was, I mean, the whole, you've got all these other people there and they were getting very stressed out. So, all right, this is the moment when I had her kicked out. The manager of this fine establishment, his name is Jose. And this was my signal to him to escort this lady on out. And he puts his bright orange stickers. I think you're going to get a visit from someone named Jose here in just 1 second. So this is a metaphor for life, is it not? When you're trying to do your stand-up comedy set, by which I mean just live your freaking life, just go through your day, get done what you need to get done, and you get heckled, which in this metaphor is like your mother-in-law calls you up with some passive-aggressive call about what you're doing wrong today, or you get a flat tire, or, oh, can I make up an example out of the blue? Oh, can I just, because it could be like you're just trying to live a normal day. And first, like 2 different people who have never done anything for you hit you up for some pretty major favors, and they're trying to guilt you into this, and you're like, you have never done anything to help me ever, but now you're trying to guilt me into. That's a random example I could come up with.
Oh, yeah,
and then
totally random.
and then while you're stewing over like, oh yeah, remember like how you've never mentioned my comedy tours, or like that's something that could happen to you. While you're dealing with that, you could get a massive 4-figure bill from a rental car company that says that you incurred damage to a car 5 months ago. That is a complete lie. It never happened. But because it was 5 months ago, how do you prove that you did nothing to this car? These are all random examples of things that could happen in your life.
Totally
and
random.
that's the metaphor for heckling. We all get heckled. We get heckled by the universe, you know? You're being heckled by the universe. It's like Jesus is on your side. He's trying to see that you have a nice day today. And then just like the devil and his minions are just hecklers. They're just sitting there heckling you. Or maybe you have some anxiety come up. It's like, it's a beautiful day, fall weather, the birds are chirping, you have your pumpkin spice everything and your fall sweater, and you're just trying to live your life. And it's like a bird poops on you. That's the universe heckling you. So how do you deal with that? I have been listening to some good calming relaxation meditations. Some of them are religious in nature. Some of them are just some straight up hippies. But one of the things, it's funny, they all have in common is this idea that the solution to all of these things that annoy you and don't go your way is you have to really immerse yourself in this present moment right here, right now, and you have to see what's good about it. And I mean every moment. I mean like you are at the proctologist and he's like, this is going to be way more complicated than we thought it would be. Like, yes, even that moment. You have to love that moment. Or it could be, you know, you're trying to do your stand-up comedy set and you get heckled. You have to love even that moment. You can see in the video, JF on youtube.com, I look relaxed in those videos. Didn't I? Mm-hmm. Did I look relaxed? I was relaxed.
Even on stage, you looked relaxed.
I was. It didn't, my heart rate did not go up even slightly. I was completely relaxed because I've been listening to these hippies. Okay, to be honest, guys, it's mostly the hippie. They do some really good. Man, you get the right hippie and they can really help you relax. And I've been listening to these hippies who've been talking to me about just being more in the present moment. And that there's also a book like The Sacrament of the Present Moment. There are plenty of religious people too who talk about this, but I've really been working on that. Loving this moment. And sometimes the only positive thing I have to say for this moment is that I'm alive. That's all I can say. But it's not nothing. I mean, being alive is pretty cool, you know? I mean, seriously, like that we've all had people we loved who passed away. Like, I bet they'd love to still be here. They wouldn't mind the proctology exam. They wouldn't mind being on an airplane with turbulence. They wouldn't mind getting the Avis. Oh, I didn't mean to shout out the car company. Actually, I like them general. I'm generally happy with them. But what a lie. Okay, I'm not. Hit the I could have gone on a tangent, but didn't. Not going on that tangent.
Oops.
Send me this bill from 5 months ago. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I'll stop. Okay, we are going to stay on track. It's happening. Here, look, I'm gonna have a sip of my cider here. Listen. Okay. Being alive is not nothing. Every second that you are on this earth and encountering all of the madness that it has to offer is cool. And sometimes when you're trying to be in the present moment, but the present moment is unbelievably annoying, that's kind of all you can get. Like the other night, we had a family issue arise, and I was dealing with it at 3:45 in the morning. and I was trying to be in the present moment, and I was like, it's all annoying. Everything annoying is happening right now. And but I had to come back to the idea that at least I'm alive. At least I have a house to be standing in. At least I have a family. At least I'm here breathing air, able to be. At least I have 2 feet to stand on. Some people don't have feet. Some people don't have mouths to talk about what's wrong with. Sometimes that's all you can do, is just be happy to be here, just happy to be alive. But it will really change your life to stop resisting what is here and now. And here's where this used to throw me off. I thought that this idea of don't resist this present moment and love it as a gift from God, or just be thank God you're alive, or whatever. I kind of thought that meant being passive. And you guys know me. I'm too ambitious and goal-oriented and too much on my trillionaire grind set to have any kind of passive attitude. What I've realized is the key is to accept the present moment. Thank God for it as a gift that you're even here to experience this moment. Then work to change it to where it is more to your taste, but in a peaceful way and in a way that is accepting of the moment that is already here. So to take it back to the heckler analogy, the reason it did not stress me out at all is because I accepted it. And it wasn't like, gosh, I wish this woman wasn't heckling me and I could just have a good performance. It was like, all right, well, that's God's plan for tonight. And yes, I was filming this one story for social media. In my career, it's very important to get clips for social media. And yep, that story was, had Caitlin come all the way out here to kind of get this one clip that this woman now ruined. But I accept it. Like, all right, that's the plan for tonight. Something else good might come of it. And so when you combine that acceptance also with a leadership mentality, you guys knew I was going to take it back to that. I just looked at it like, I'm the leader of this room and I will handle this if it gets out of control. Luckily, the manager, Jose, was wonderful. He dealt with it easily. But if he hadn't, I would have walked off the stage and I would have gone over to her and nicely said, you need to leave. Or Caitlin. I mean, I would have just said, Caitlin, please see this lady out. And that also helps you relax when you know in your mind, I got this and it will be resolved. This will be resolved because I am taking ownership of this situation. So when the universe heckles you, bottom line is start by just accepting the situation, Like let's say you're single, you're on your way to a date that you were really excited about, and you're getting out of your car and another car comes by and splashes mud all over you. Don't resist it. I know it's tempting to just be so like, I spent all day picking out this outfit. I'm telling you, don't resist it. Just laugh like, okay. Maybe I'm meant to marry this person and this is going to lead to a conversation that really starts our relationship off the right way. I'm not resisting this. I am now covered in filth and heading to this date, and I'm not resisting it. It just is what it is. But then after you've accepted the moment, you can say, okay, is there anything I can do to gently direct this to something that is more of my taste? And we talked about this a couple episodes ago, but I think the real wisdom in the idea of not resisting your annoying moments is that it calms your brain down so that you can hear inspiration. When your brain believes there is an emergency, you're not really open to inspiration, to creative ideas. Your primal brain shuts down the creative part of your mind when it perceives that there is an emergency going on. So if some crazy guy is running up to you swinging a knife in the air, swinging like a Viking sword your direction, no one's going to write a great song in that moment, like, hey, I was just really inspired by some new lyrics for the song. I mean, no, because your brain shuts off all creativity when it is in emergency mode. It is just like, get out of here now, run. Like that's there is no creativity at all. It is just primal, move your legs. That's it. So when you are flipping out about stuff, your brain thinks someone's running at you with a sword. And it shuts down your creativity. So if I had been up there on stage flipping out like, this is the one thing that I wanted to video. I promised my manager I would have this new clip for social media. Caitlin came all the way out here to Salt Lake City from Austin to help me with this. And now the crowd is going to be unimpressed with the show. And they're going to be like, Jen Fulwiler show sucks because like people yell at her. If I had started flipping out like that, I wouldn't have been able to joke around with the lady. Mm-hmm. I might not have remembered the manager's name. I mean, I could have blanked on his name. And by the way, it turns out he was deep in the kitchen and only came out to deal with her because he just barely heard me say his name, but he was the only one with authority to kick people out. If I had been flipping out, I could have very easily forgotten his name. And then that could have been a lot more awkward getting her out of there. And then same thing, if you're headed to the date, you get splashed with mud. Okay, so if you're flipping out and you're like, well, now another man gone. Now this date is definitely going to be terrible. Okay, so what you've done there by flipping out is you put your brain into emergency mode. So now you will not get any creative inspiration at all because your brain thinks someone's running at you with a broadsword, no creativity. Whereas when you start with that acceptance, you tell your brain that everything's fine. You're like, yeah, no, we're good. We're just, muddy, but good. Just, this outfit is definitely ruined. Lost a lot of money on that. Got a little challenge for the dry cleaners here. But whatever, it is what it is, and we're still having a good time. That is telling your brain there is no emergency. We're all fine. And that puts you in that creative flow state. And we were talking about creative flow, I think, just in episode 178. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, it was episode 178. We were talking about creative flow. And so when you're in chilled out, happy, accepting mode, you get creative flow, you get divine inspiration. So let's take this two different directions. All right, you're going to this date, you get splashed with mud and you just flip out, you're catastrophizing. I'll be single for the rest of my life. Like you're visualizing yourself dying alone. Nobody will be there for you, all because this happened. Well, then you show up to the date frazzled, frustrated. Maybe you took some paper towels and some toilet paper in the bathroom to try to get the mud off, but now you just have little balled up toilet paper sticking to you and you're angry and you're frustrated. And of course the date completely falls apart. Now imagine that, okay, now we're rewinding. Headed to the date, you get splashed with mud, but you accept it. You're laughing at it like, ha, 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 God's feeling silly today. How fun. And because you're in a calm down state, your brain does not sense any emergency, so it is safe to be in creative flow. You think, oh my gosh, you know what? That acquaintance of mine lives a mile away from here, and she wears the exact same size I do. So you text this person and you're like, I have the craziest situation. Could you bring your hottest outfit over here, like right now? And your friend brings the outfit. It ends up being the hottest outfit you've ever worn. You look gorgeous. The guy proposes to you on the spot and you rekindle your friendship with this acquaintance. And now the two of you are best friends and like you all make some investments together. You're all millionaires. And then you're like hanging out with Jen Fulwiler, because we're in the future now and like Jen's a millionaire. And all of this happened because you calmed down and because you started by accepting the situation. And I actually thought of that when I was on stage with the heckler. And you'll see if you watch the video, JF on youtube.com, I actually smiled when it started because I was like, yes, I love it. I love it. I love it that I'm not getting this story for social media now because she interrupted me in the middle of it. I genuinely wouldn't want anything different to happen here. And again, it kind of sends your life a new direction because I was making jokes. I was so calm. You see in the video how calm I was. I put it on social media because I thought it was funny. And now I'm in conversations with some comedians that I hadn't talked to in a long time. Who knows? We might end up collaborating together. We might do something really cool together. Whereas, again, if I'd gotten frustrated and flipped out, that wouldn't have been worth putting on social media, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't be connected with those people. So it all starts with accepting the heckling. Next time the universe heckles you with some really annoying situation or a painful situation or a scary situation or a difficult situation, start by accepting it and tell your brain, oh yeah, no, you were about to flip out and start the anxiety thing. No. Wait, this is exactly what we wanted, actually. This is incredible. And then you will be open to creative flow and all sorts of great inspirations will come to you. All right, before we get to the main topic, a couple of things. One is thank you for your comments on the Nateland video. I mentioned in episode 178 that Nate Bargatze very kindly offered for me to be part of a new show he's doing where he showcases comics. That was very cool that I was part of that. And I asked you guys to go leave comments, and you did. And what's funny though is some of my haters saw that too, and I can tell by what they said that like they listen to the podcast and they know who I am. So of course a couple of haters had to jump in to like, wow, this is so painful, Jen's not funny at all. And then of course that got a bunch of likes, so it's fun. It's always great to read YouTube comments. I love it. But you guys showed up big and it was fantastic, and it was so much fun to read those comments, and you can go see them. This is the Nateland, it's their comedy showcase. It's episode 3. Just search on YouTube, search Nateland Jen, okay, Jen. Just search that. It should come up. I should probably have a better way to tell you to find that, but search Nateland Jen and you can read the comments in there. A lot of fun. Okay, and then I want to let you know before we get into the main topic that episode 13 of the Village Hustle Patreon is out this week. For the regular level of Patreon, we do an after party after every single episode. And then on the Village Hustle, the elevated level, I bring you into specific business problems. I have things I'm dealing with. And this one's a lot of fun. Episode 13 that just came out was the day that I was cutting bangs. And I was doing my makeup and talking to you guys about the fact that I felt really bad. Physically, I did not feel good that day. And it was so disappointing because I had built up bangs cutting day as this fun thing, kind of make it a party, we'll all hang out. And that is just not how it worked out at all. And so that whole episode is about what I do when it's supposed to be a special day. It's a day that I'd really built up as being fun, and I physically feel terrible. How do you salvage that? How do you pull that out of the fire? So I went into that. That is episode 13 of the Village Hustle Patreon. And when you join, you get access to all the archives as well as the after party and all that. Link in the show notes. You can find more details there. And the final thing is, I was trying to lose some weight before I filmed this comedy special. Cheers. I'm drinking cider. I don't care anymore. If any of you have like food or fitness goals that you were really jazzed up about, and now you're like, who even was that made those commitments? And you are stuffing food in your mouth right now, and you dare anyone to say anything to you about it. To you, I say, cheers. I'm right there with you. Listen, look. People who criticize you for going back on your diet commitments don't have the same dopamine wiring that you do and that I do. And let me just tell you, if they had the same connection to sweets and carbs and dopamine in their brain that you and I do, they wouldn't be able to get on my 600-pound life because they'd be too fat. Listen, for those of us who get a major serotonin dopamine boost from drinking alcohol, sugar, from eating carbs, that kind of thing, it's a wonder that any of us ever do anything other than eat. In the infamous episode 150, the weight loss episode, I was talking about how there is a spectrum of food addiction. All of the male influencers who talk to you about how you're a loser if you don't follow through on your fitness, they're all like a 1 on a scale of 1 to 100 on the food addiction scale. Like they could eat a double fudge chocolate cake and I think it would give them a little bit of a boost, but not, it would just be like, that tastes good. And by the way, there have been times like when I was first on Zoloft, and then a couple of other times when maybe I had just eaten something sweet or whatever, when I've been in that place. It's like, that chocolate cake does look good. I think I'll have a little bite. I've had one bite. That was very pleasant. It tasted delicious, but I have a diet commitment I'd like to stick to. So I think I'll just stop at this one bite. Do you guys know that is how a lot of people, they are like that 24/7. That is just how their brain is wired. You can't listen to them. You can't let them get in your head, because the rest of us are a little further over on the food addiction spectrum. And I just want to congratulate all of us that we ever diet ever. I'm telling you, if I eat like a double fudge chocolate cake, or I drink sugary alcohol, and it's actually, I think, not as much about the alcohol, like getting toe up, but it's just about the sugar. Alcohol is very sugary. Or I have carbs, tortilla, pancakes with syrup. I am soaring on eagle's wings. I've never tried black tar heroin, but I truly cannot imagine that you would feel a whole lot better than I do when I am consuming those things. And so if you have that kind of wiring, and anyone ever criticizes you for going back on any sort of food related commitment, you tell them that your friend Jen said to shut up. Shut up. If live one day. You know what?
Uh-oh, is this rant?
Yeah. Hit this special sound effect that we had our top scientists create for what I will do when the Comedy Millions are here. When I go Elon Musk on this situation, and I'm just like rich to the point of being bored, I just have so much money, I don't know what to do with my life, and I'd like to make it everyone else's problem. This is what I'm going to do. I am going to create some sort of like cap that you can put on your head, like in a sci-fi movie, and it'll have lights coming out of it. And it will let male influencers know what it's like to have a brain wiring where it hits every single dopamine and serotonin receptor in your entire brain when you eat fried food, sugar, and simple carbs. And I want to see them stick to their commitments and stay consistent in their atomic habits for 1 hour. 1 hour with the little mind meld brain cap on. They couldn't do it because they have a different brain wiring than we do. So if anyone ever criticizes you for like, hey, you said that you were on a diet, and I couldn't help but notice that you just finished that whole plate of nachos to yourself, that anyone who isn't with you on that, who doesn't get why you did that, they're just not on the food addiction spectrum, or they're on the spectrum at like a 1 on a scale of 1 to 100. They don't know what it's like. So all this is to say, I was trying to lose weight for my comedy special, and here I am drinking cider, and I am probably going to go have some nachos and some chips and Fritos and bean dip, because I don't care anymore, because you know what it is? It's like when you live our lives, when you live a life of the people who listen to this podcast, the moms, the single 22-year-old gals, the men operating concrete plants, the legions of men operating concrete plants that listen to this podcast. Your life is complicated, and it can be frustrating and difficult and annoying, and it can feel like the universe is heckling you every single day. And you just get to the point at the end of the day where you were like, I need one pleasurable thing to happen to me today. And if that is this double fudge chocolate cake, then so be it, because the people who I associate with chose not to give me any pleasurable experiences today. The business contacts, people on social media, haters, they sucked the life and the joy out of me one by one after another for 12 hours in this day. And all I have left is me and this bag of tortilla chips. And that is what is going to get me through to the end of the night without killing anyone or saying anything on the internet that permanently ruins my reputation. And some people don't understand that, but I do. So I even wrote down in my food journal today, I was like, I'm going to have who cares what I said, because none of it's happening. And that is because this cider and the fried food that I am about to go eat as soon as we finish this episode, it's for other people's safety. If I don't get some serotonin up in my neurons, it's not going to be good for anyone. So, we don't need to worry about my clothes being too loose when I film the comedy special. Okay. All right. Let's get to the main topic. This is taking too long. I'm sorry. I should have gotten to this sooner. What was the... Oh, yeah. Okay.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah. So, and you know what made me think of this? I was going to jump up in here in this podcast and do the thing where I point out the way I want things to be, but aren't, and tell you guys what you're not getting. As usual, this goes back to my bangs, because having bangs is my whole personality now. So who needs any other aspect of my life? It's just, that's all we're talking about from here on out, just me and my bangs. But my bangs don't look as good as they could, because and I promise you, I do not perceive that anyone is interested in this. But I swear I'm leading to a point that is relevant to the concrete plant. Okay. Having me cutting bangs is very relevant to those of you guys who have real jobs. So one of the things you will see, look back at the heckler footage that we played about halfway through this episode, JF on youtube.com. And you will notice that my bangs weren't moving at all, because I've been experimenting with gluing them to my forehead.
Yeah.
Because I need to do that when we film the comedy special, so that they don't get messed up while we're filming. And I found this from the TikTok girlies, that you can use eyelash glue and just glue the tips of your bang, just the very ends. Just glue them where you want them to be. And it worked amazingly. Look, I'm moving my head all around in that footage. My bangs do not move. It's incredible. So I was experimenting with that this morning, because I forgot that we were filming the podcast, and it ended up there was just a real lash glue situation. And then I was like, oh my, this is the first podcast episode where I will visually have bangs. And given the enormity of my YouTube channel, this is a really big deal, with just the legions of people who will see this because of the insane popularity, like internet shutting down popularity of my YouTube channel. And so I wanted my hair to look different than it does. And if you are vain and have unresolved insecurities due to unresolved childhood trauma from junior high, that's like a big deal if you feel like you're unveiling this, certain way you look and it's not the way you wanted. And so I was about to start by saying, well, my hair is not normally my hair would be, and then I was like, no, we don't do that. We don't apologize for what we didn't get done, for what's not here. And to go to the example that I used at the beginning of the show, the time that we most do this is with food and hospitality. Even if you're just cooking for your family, it is so tempting to talk about what's wrong with the food. I'm tempted to do it every single day. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, the chicken it's a little bit rubbery, and this food, and okay, and I know I just cooked this last week, but I was really busy today, and I think that I put too much spice in this, and then it needs a little bit more salt. We do it all the time. And especially if you have people over. I do it with my own family, but like I told you the infamous Paul J. Kim story. People walk in and it's like, oh wow, this place it's really pretty bad. I should have dealt with that stain on the carpet. Like it's still wet. I mean, I could have done more. I could have done more to make these people feel safe in my house. But it puts you in the wrong mindset when you are apologizing and or talking about what you didn't do and what is not here. What you are saying to your family, to your kids, to your spouse, or to your visitors, or to your employees, maybe you're doing this at work, is I'm a bad leader. I have as the leader of this situation, I let you guys just be in a real mess. And I'm not good at this. And no one knows who's in charge here, but you can tell it's not me from the way I'm talking. Think about what a mental shift it is if you don't let yourself apologize and you don't let yourself point out what is not here and what didn't get done and what's imperfect. And instead, you only focus on what is working and why this is a worthy setup. Because think about this, it must be okay if you're letting it happen. If you're serving the food, it must be edible. You wouldn't serve your family food where you're like, okay, the ham is not cooked at all. It's actually still pretty, it's just cold, and you can see the raw meat dripping there, but yeah, go ahead and eat it. No, you wouldn't do that. If you are serving the food, it must be passable. Or with visitors coming over. Obviously, when the classy people came to my house, I thought it was all right. Or else I would have rescheduled. I would have said, so sorry guys, tonight's not going to work out. We had the dog could use a little more potty training work, and we're just going to have to do this another time. There could be circumstances that get so crazy that you cancel the whole thing. You're not doing it. So if you have decided to serve the food, to have the people over, to do the business retreat for your team or whatever, it must be good enough if you decided to do it. And so you need to show up like that leader and focus on the reasons you decided to go ahead and go through with this. So for example, the other night I made I just got some frozen chicken sandwiches for the family. And they were pretty good, but the buns were they did not turn out well. And it was tempting to fixate on that, like, I'm sorry, these buns are kind of soggy or whatever. Instead, I just got a regular loaf of bread. I set that out too. We got some bread to where if you don't want to use these buns, here are some other options. Bon appetit. Everyone enjoy. There you go. And I added I got some frozen vegetables or something and added a ton of butter so that maybe people will actually eat it. And I put that out too. And so you just have this mentality of, hey, stand on what you did. And so I realize that I sound like the stupidest, most vain person in the world using this example. But again, with my bangs, when I first got back on my YouTube podcast showing you guys the new look that I had really talked up in the last episode, again, for someone who is as vain and shallow as I am, for someone who has very deep psychological connections of looking the right way, associating with safety, again, due to unresolved childhood trauma, things like bangs can be a big deal. You want to look a certain way. And so my original notes when I wrote up this episode were going to say, oh, guys, my hair's like really messed up because like I had it styled this way and I was experimenting with this and my bangs are very, very sticky due to a very unfortunate eyelash glue incident. I was putting glue on my bangs. That's also kind of a long story. And I was tempted to do that. But then I remembered, no, we don't apologize for what we didn't bring to the table. We stand by what we did bring to the table. Obviously, I thought my hair was decent enough to go ahead and bang this out and film the episode so I can get back and check my texts and see who is annoying me additionally today. Because I told Caitlin earlier today, it is National Annoy Jen on Text Day. Very exciting day. The whole nation is celebrating. It's if you have not sent me an annoying text, really consider it if you have my number. Very big day over here. People really get into this one. And so that's what reminded me of this subject, that I was like, no, I'm not going to focus on what I'm not bringing to the table. People learn that in sales as well, that if you're trying to sell someone on something, if you're a used car salesman, you don't say like, okay, well, there's this hole in the upholstery. Yes. And oh, I'm so sorry that one speaker isn't great. No. You focus on what is there, what is good. And just like each one of us is in leadership, whether we want to be or not, I would say if you're a parent or any kind of leader in business, or even an aunt or an uncle, I mean, if you're in any kind of situation where anyone looks up to you in any way, I would say you're also in sales. We're all in leadership and we're all in sales. You are selling your family on life. To take it back to the present moment thing, not only should you be accepting of the present moment and start by, you can change it, but start by accepting it for what it is, smiling at it, like, yes, this is the plan. I love it. But then, especially if you're a parent, you can sell your children on the present moment. So again, when that meal did not turn out quite right, and I'm not terrible in the kitchen, but cooking is not my blue flame. It is not my charism. It stresses me out to no end. So this is a very common occurrence for me, that I'm just not thrilled with how something turned out. I have trouble following recipes. Every time I miss an ingredient, or because, ADHD brain, it's so hard for me. Cooking is like rocket science for me. And so my kids used to come downstairs to eat, and it was just this litany of what went wrong, this, I overcooked it. I think our oven runs too cool because this isn't cooked enough, and it's like this and that in the center. But now I look at it like it is my job to sell my kids on life and on the present moment. So it's almost like being a used car salesman, that like, kids, all right, we got lasagna for tonight. Now you might notice that the center of the lasagna is missing. That is over there because it did not get cooked enough. But I have microwaved it, and I just cut out the center part and I microwaved it. So that piece is over there, and this is all great. And this is a delicious meal. So excited for you guys to have it. Or when I replaced the buns on the frozen chicken sandwiches with regular bread, it was, hey, you know what? This bread actually fits around the sandwich even better. I'm so glad we have it. Sell the people you love on the present moment. Sell them like you are selling them a used car. And depending on how your life is going right now, it might be a real clunker that you're trying to sell them. It might be like, look, I know this is a 1981 Pinto, and it doesn't have wheels, and it's completely rusted, and 3 of the seats are missing, and it doesn't have a steering wheel. But listen, there's a lot to love. There is a lot to love about this car. There's a windshield. Who doesn't like a windshield? The windshield is still there, and it only has 4 cracks in it. This is incredible. So if your life is a dumpster fire, I mean, you might kind of feel like that's the car you're selling them. Nevertheless, it is still your job to sell your family on life and sell your family on the present moment. That starts with you accepting and loving and not resisting the present moment. It starts with you finding what's good about it. You can't sell them the Pinto if you don't genuinely see what's great about the Pinto. So you have to start with that. And then you can't focus on what's wrong. You can't focus on what is not here in the present moment, on what you don't have, on what's not working, because no one ever sold anything by telling their potential client what is not there and what they're not getting. So sell your family, sell your kids, sell your spouse, sell everyone in your life on this moment, on life. And that, again, it really begins with, don't apologize. Don't tell them what you didn't bring to the table. Don't tell them what they're not getting. You're a leader. And if you decided that this is good to go, you had the guests come over, you're serving the food, your bangs are, sticky, but here, and you're doing the podcast, you're selling the car, you think this Pinto is worth something, you think it's a fair price for what they're getting, then stand on it, own it, and start telling everyone what they are getting from you proudly instead of what they aren't. And that is it for this fine episode. We are headed straight into the after party, which we do on Patreon. Every single episode, we keep the cameras rolling. I keep talking on this subject or a related subject, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a relaxed little 10 minutes. And then, of course, we also have the elevated village hustle level, where I go into a lot more detail about how I handle life and business, all of that. You can get that at patreon.com. This is Jen, and I will see you next week.